De Blasio said, today, unfortunately, is not a day for celebration. Today is a more difficult day. The 9 areas have large populations of Orthodox Jews, communities where the virus have been spreading rapidly, and where public health officials have struggled to persuade many residents to adhere to guidelines on mask wearing and social distancing. Those areas all have had positivity rates in recent days of more than 3%, some as high as 8%, in contrast to the city's overall rate of 1.5%. The reason for that, presumably, is because in a lot of these Orthodox areas, it is the time of the year where you go to shul a lot, right? You end up going for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, right? These are the big communal days. Sukkot, the high holy days, and the high holy days, holidays. This is the time of year when people tend to get together in close quarters. It's a big problem in Israel. This is why they've had military lockdown, particularly in religious areas. By the way, I think it is worth noting, I think it is worth noting right here, that the media's treatment of Orthodox Jews and other racial groups is quite disparate. Have you noticed this? Whenever there's a spiking rate, and it happens among black communities, or it happens in Hispanic communities, the answer is sheer American racism, brutal American racism. Not spiking deaths, right? Not spiking deaths where you could theoretically talk about differentials in medical care. Although even there, you're seeing those spiking rates of death vary by racial group, ethnic group. In Europe as well, you're seeing it in Canada. It's very doubtful that America's racist medical system is really the problem here. Okay, but even when there is a spike in cases in the black community or in the Hispanic community, the media will chalk it up to endemic American discrimination and racism and evil. When there is a spike in rates in the Orthodox Jewish community in New York, it is because they're refusing to obey mask guidelines and they are going in enclosed areas and then spitting on each other. So, by the way, I tend to think that the second one is true, meaning that when you have a heavy spread in a particular community, you might want to look at the activity of the particular community as opposed to differentiating the communities based, 1, on the behavior of the community, and 2, based on the evils of the American system. Just going to note the media bias there, right? If there's a heavy uptick in urban Chicago, in heavily black urban Chicago, then it must be because America is a racist place. If there's a heavy uptick in Borough Park in New York, then it must be because those terrible Jews are out there spitting on each other. And just noticing the disparate treatment right here. Apparently, reactions to the restrictions began to emerge from Jewish leaders on Sunday evening after celebrations of Sukkot ended, at least the first couple of days. David Greenfield, who represented Borough Park on the city council until 2017, he said, I think it's unfortunate New York City continues to single out a couple of Hasidic Jewish neighborhoods where there are now 20 neighborhoods with serious spikes. Many of the 20 zip codes the city's focusing on do have sizable numbers of residents who are not Jewish. The new restrictions could increase tensions between them and the Orthodox Jews. Most of the schools set to close are non-public schools, largely yeshivot, that have been open for weeks. About 200 private schools will close, as well as 100 public schools as well.